Hello, everybody. This is Zach Said It Again. I'm your host, Zach Cooley, and I'm happy to be here with Karen Melton. She is musical director of the Wolford House Dinner Theatre, and we're here to talk about the Broadway Bound Camp that she put on with Mr. George Bailey, who is the artistic director of the Wolford House Dinner Theatre. They put on a Broadway camp which culminated in a performance of the Big Bad Musical, which I saw Saturday, July 13th at the Millwald Theatre. Please welcome to the podcast Karen Melton. Thank you so much, Karen, for being with me.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it was really something to see 27 kids of all ages come together with an hour-long performance in 5 days. As you said at the beginning of the performance, even in the professional world, you get more than 5 days. So, how impressed are you with these kids?
These kids blew me away all week long.
Mm-hmm.
They were like little sponges all week. They just took in everything we threw at them. Every class we taught them, every guest artist that we had come in and do a class with them, just everything we threw at them. And then when we start working on the show, all the blocking and the choreography and the music, just anything we asked them to do and that we were teaching them, they were just like riveted, paying attention, learning, and picking it all up so quickly. They just continued to impress us and blow us away like every single day. And it was just an incredible week, and it was an extremely impressive feat that they were able to put a show together in 5 days, because we don't even do that in the professional world.
So was this a standout group compared to previous Broadway Bound camps that you've done?
So this was a little bit different than the Broadway Bound camps that we had done in the past. We haven't had a Broadway Bound camp in quite a while. I believe the last one we did was when I was pregnant with my son, and my son is almost 11 now. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's been a minute. But in the past, I feel like we mostly just kind of focused on putting the shows together. And we also, the camp was split by age group, so we actually did 2 groups. We did a younger group and an older group. And we were able to kind of cater the shows more towards that. Whereas this was basically all the kids in one camp. And so it was more kids, but we also had the teaching element in it, where we were kind of going through the entire process of what it takes to be a performer in general, because we did acting classes with them, we did voice classes with them. I'm actually a private voice teacher as well, so I did voice classes with them, talking about singing technique and how to sing healthy, and then my co-leader Reagan Delp, she did dance classes with them as well, because if you do musical theater, obviously you need to be a triple threat and be able to do all 3. And then on top of that, we had guest artists come in, all professional performers come in. We had an improv acting class. We did a special dance class with a professional dancer, and we did a stage combat class with them, which I think was probably their favorite. They just really thought that was so cool. So that was unique to this camp. I think, it was really special to have that, and kind of kind of just expanded on what we had been able to do in the past with the Broadway Bound camps. But because we did the classes in the morning, we actually had a little bit less time to work on the show because we did classes in the morning and then we rehearsed the show in the afternoon. So it was a really, really quick rehearsal process. And this group they were super talented. We've had super talented kids in the other camps as well. I feel like we have a lot of talent here in our little community. So I just think that that's continuing to happen.
I agree. Who were some of the guest artists you had?
So we had, for the improv class, we had Christy Contrary and Dahe Wentz came, and they taught that class with the kids. Cora Hasberger came and did the dance class, and then we had two gentlemen come do the stage combat class. We had Hunter LaSalle and Jesse Cortes, who is trained extensively in stage combat. So, and that was really cool too, I think, for the boys to see. We didn't have a ton of boys in the camp, which I would love to get more participation in that sense as we continue on. So I think that was really great for them to get to see, some male performers and have that perspective. I think that was really great for them as well. So,
but the boys in the camp, the few that you did have, in my opinion, were standout performers.
Oh, they were excellent.
You had
excellent,
the big bad wolf, who was very good, and
yes, that's Andrew Schmidt,
and the boy who cried wolf.
That's Caxton Haga.
Was very good, putting one finger on the fairy tale book as he swore to Hans Christian Andersen to tell the truth.
That was something I was so proud of him about, because that was something he did all on his own, and that was one of the things that we had talked to them about in the camp, was making acting choices as their characters, because in a show, the director shouldn't give a performer every single little teeny tiny detail of their blocking or their character. They should, be able to come up with stuff on their own that they think that their character would do in that moment. And so we strongly encourage them to do that, to come up with things and make up things, make what we call it, make an acting choice, to do things that they think that their character would do. And we always tell them, if it's really probably not a good choice, we'll tell them, but we would much rather them go for it. And that was something that Caxton came up with all on his own, and it was hilarious. And we were so proud of him that he did that he made that acting choice, and that was a really good one, and it was very funny. And so I was just thrilled that he had picked that up and done that.
It was probably the funniest moment in the whole play, and I couldn't see too well from the back row, but I think he had one finger on the fairy tale book, which was a substitute for the Bible, and then he had two fingers in the air on the other hand.
He was making the peace sign.
Peace sign. That's what I thought. Okay, yeah. Well, that was very good, and that got the biggest laugh, I think.
It did. It did get a very big laugh.
There were some sound issues. I had some difficulty hearing a lot of the dialogue from the back of where I had to sit in the back of the auditorium, and of course some performers, you could tell the older ones knew how to project more than some of the younger ones.
Yes.
And it was also, I thought it was very funny that when Caxton made that choice, when he did the peace sign and put the finger on the book, that the little girl that was playing the fairy that was swearing him in got tickled.
Yeah, it's hard as a kid to not always be able to keep you straight faced
No,
and not
no,
break.
I thought it was very cute because
It is very cute. It is, and audiences always love it when actors break on stage.
yeah.
So,
Well, I
but
mean,
it was very funny.
you go back to the Carol Burnett show, and what do people
Yes,
like about the Carol Burnett show?
yes,
They like to see them break each other up,
yes,
and
yes.
the blooper reel. So who was the cute little girl that was doing the swearing in the fair?
So her name is Lucy. I cannot. Her last name is not coming to me off the
Okay,
top of my head right now, but her name
that's
is Lucy.
fine.
She was very studious all week. She had lots of questions, and she was also full of suggestions that she wanted to, throw out there, and things that she wanted to do, and things that she thought would be funny, and other ideas. So she was very involved all week. So
Very good for her. So definitely some natural theater performers.
oh yes, there was a lot of that. There were a lot of very just natural talent with those kids, and as far as what you were saying with the sound issues, I agree, and unfortunately, we didn't have the resources to mic the kids and give them body
Right.
mics like we do, at our theater and most professional theaters, and so all we really were able to do is like omnidirectional mics to pick up as much as they can of everybody.
Right.
And that was something we worked with them all week on and talked to them all week about, was projecting. But that is certainly something that some kids are able to do easily and more naturally than others, and then some of them get nervous.
And it was an interesting choice, I thought, for a production because it gave each one of the children, whether they are what you might say on the A list, it gave some of the supporting players their chance to shine. The only one I knew by name was Nevaeh Fields, and she was great as Little Miss Muffet. Who would have thought that she would have been raised with the Big Bad Wolf's cubs, siblings, as a sister, and then go on to become the most noted psychiatrist in fairy tale land.
Right?
I learned lots of things that I didn't know, like which it makes sense, but the law that consuming a live human is a felony, as well as it should be.
As it should be. I agree.
It's amazing that they were able to be there to tell their story. So
Yes.
and without spoiler alert if you haven't seen this play or don't want to know spoiler alerts. It was surprising to me that the verdict was unresolved. You leave it up to the audience, and you think, okay, there's going to be a complete flip flop on good and evil here, but it doesn't end up that way. It ends up being a draw, and there's convincing arguments on both sides. And it's undetermined, or you determine it by applause. And I think most of our audience voted for acquittal, but they decided for a retrial. Which I thought was interesting.
Well, so to be perfectly honest, this show actually has 3 endings. There is an ending for if the wolf is voted acquitted, or if the audience votes to convict him, and then obviously the ending that we chose, being that we had 5 days to put it together.
Yeah.
I felt like it was probably best that we go ahead and just choose an ending and learn one ending and do that no matter what happens. I just felt like it was going to be, that's difficult to do even in a performer that has done it a lot. There's a show called The Mystery of Edwin Drood. It's a musical, and it does the same thing. It has it has multiple endings, and the audience votes on who does it, and so it could be a different ending every night. And it's really hard because you don't know what the ending is until, right before you do it, and then you have to jump in and do that ending. So every ending has to be rehearsed and ready to go. And I just, in 5 days, there was just no way we had the time to do that and perfect that. So we went ahead and chose to go ahead and go with the neutral ending, so that, they wouldn't have that added stress with not that kind of time. So that's in all fairness, like, if we had the time, we probably could have done the ending where the wolf got acquitted. But
well, I think keeping it neutral is good, because you want to, keep the basic moral of fairy tales going, because I think today, and this is getting probably too opinionated for just children's theater, but I think today there is not a deep enough line between good and evil. We are raising our children to believe that everything is justifiable, and there needs to be clear guidelines as to what is right and wrong. So, if we were to, as I say, go into a deep analysis of it, even though he may have been driven to eat those sheep, he still should be accountable for eating those sheep. But it is a comedy, and it's not to be delved into that much. But I was personally on the line for conviction. I tend to, the justice is not black and white, but I tend to be a very black and white person, as my wife will tell you, much to her chagrin. But some very talented future kids, as in when I first started writing a column for the Enterprise. I started in July of 2005, and I reviewed, I think, in 2006 and 2007. George did Broadway camps for High School Musical and Little Shop of Horrors. And I remember reviewing those when you had people like Brandon Mock, who was in the shows, and he went on to be like the lead musician at either a church or some university in Roanoke. A very, very talented young man that I remember, and
I love Brandon. He's a great guy,
and I'm very fond of his mom, Lori, as well.
Yes, Lori's wonderful.
Who's a member of the WCC band, a great musician.
Yes, she is.
Great musician in her own right. And I remember, I was so glad when you brought up Piper, because I remember when Piper was on her dad's hip on stage as he's introducing these people for Little Shop of Horrors, and now she's fully grown and 6 feet tall and beautiful and wearing every hat in the theater just like her dad.
Just like her dad. Yep.
So that's nice to see, and Reagan Delp too, who was just born into the theater, as they basically, with you, the three of you did the whole thing. So,
Yeah, it was a very collaborative effort between the three of us. And I have basically watched both of those girls grow up. Reagan played my daughter in American Christmas in 2003 when she was 7 years old. And she's still playing my daughter. She just played my daughter in Steel Magnolias in a couple months ago, so she's still playing my daughter, and she is in fact my niece because I married her uncle. But
right,
so I've watched her grow up, and I've known Piper since before she was born. I remember when her mom was pregnant with her.
right.
They both have done the Broadway Bound Camps, and they've both done shows at the theater for years, and they're both excellent performers, and they're both wonderful young ladies, and it was truly a collaborative effort with them, and we just all really worked very well together. We bounced ideas off each other, and we were just all on the same page, and they really are both just incredible young women and so talented in their own right. And I was just as proud of them as I was of the kids in the camp. It was really neat, actually. It was a very full circle moment.
And I'm not sure you want to single anybody out, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Is there anybody in this camp that you see like they're going to be major stars in the future? I mean, obviously there are several who displayed some natural talent.
Yeah, so there were several that I feel already have extreme talent. I don't want to name names because I
Right,
don't want anybody to think I'm playing favorites. But I
right.
feel like there were several that were quite accomplished already. And then there were several that I think have real potential and natural talent. And I am hoping that we can continue this program and hopefully expand on it and maybe get to continue to mold these kids and nurture their love for the arts and performing, and help them continue to grow that talent. So I don't want to name names.
No.
I don't want anybody to think I'm playing favorites. I didn't have any I'm not playing favorites, but there definitely were some that clearly had, I don't know if it was just more experience or just were really just natural talents on stage. But I was proud of all of them.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Karen Melton, for being on the show today. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your efforts with our kids and with our community.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for talking to me and letting me talk about the camp.
It's my pleasure. Anything else you want to add before we go?
No, just I would love for people to keep an eye out and ear out for any future things that we're able to do with Broadway Bound through Millwald and Wilford House. And I would encourage anybody who has kids that might be interested in doing it to have them join us the next time.
Very good. All right. Thank you very much, Karen Melton.
Thank you, Zach.